Maxims of teaching from simple to complex. A teacher should start with simple things and ideas, and this can be done with day to day examples if possible. Then, gradually, a teacher can move towards concepts and teach technical terms. This creates interest among learners to acquire new knowledge. This is helpful in better retention. Then, from known to unknown, this is related to first maxim. Retention is always better if new information can be linked with the known one. From seen to unseen, the students should be imparted knowledge about the present, and then they can understand the past and the future better. From concrete to abstract, the mental development of students happen better with the concrete objects. They become familiar with and define micro worlds for them at a later stage. And from particular to general, the students should be presented with examples first and then general laws, and their derivations can be explained to them. The experiments and demonstrations serve this purpose. Then, from whole to part, gestalt psychologists have proved that we first see the whole object and then its parts. For example, we first perceive the tree and then its trunk, branches, leaves, etc. This, the introduction or overview of the topics is important. Then, from indefinite to definite, a teacher should help to transform indefinite knowledge into definite one and aim to clarify the doubts of students. From psychological to logical, during initial stages, psychological order is more important, whereas from grown up learners, logical order is emphasized more. Then, from analysis to synthesis, initially the students have little or vague knowledge about the topics. Analysis means dividing problems into its constituent parts, and then these are studied. Synthesis means to understand by connecting the knowledge acquired through analysis of parts. A teacher should use analytic synthetic method. Then, follow nature. It means to regulate the education of a pupil according to its nature. From analysis to synthesis, initially the students have little or vague knowledge about the topics. Analysis means dividing problems into its constituent parts, and then these are studied. Then synthesis means to understand by connecting the knowledge acquired through analysis the part. A teacher should use analytic synthetic method. Then follow nature. It means to regulate the education of a pupil according to his nature. Then training of senses. The types of sense like sight, hearing, taste, smell, and touch are gateways to knowledge. It is better if all or maximum of these senses can be applied in teaching. Montessori and Froebel are the main proponents of this maxim. Encouragement to self-study. Dalton system is based on self-study. Next major topic, principles of teaching. They are closely related to maxims. Teaching methods are based on two types of principles. It has general principles and psychological principles. General principles, principle of motivation. It creates curiosity among students to learn new things. Principle of activity, learning by doing. Froebel's kindergarten system is based on this principle. It includes both physical and mental activities. For example, students are asked to make charts and models. And principle of interest, by generating genuine interest among the learners community, the effectiveness of the teaching learning process can be increased. The principle of linking with life. Life is a continuous experience, and learning linked with life can be more enduring. Then, principle of definite aim. This is important for optimum utilization of teaching resources and making learning more focused. Next, psychological principles. Principle of motivation and interest. A teacher needs to understand that every student is a unique psychological entity, and a student can be motivated after identifying his or her motives and needs. Then, principle of recreation. Recreation is necessary to tackle fatigue after attending lengthy classes. This breaks monotony and prepares students for learning again. Then, principle of repetition and exercise. This is specifically true in case of small children. Principle of encouragement or encouraging creativity and self-expression. This is specifically applicable in subjects such as mathematics and learning language. So, principle of sympathy and cooperation. This principle is required for the motivation of students. Then, principle of reinforcement. Students should be suitably rewarded for their desired behavior. Then, principle of impairing training to senses. The use of multimedia makes many senses get involved simultaneously, which is crucial for enduring learning. Then, principle of remedial teaching. This principle is necessary for the teacher to identify mistakes and suggest better answers to the problems. Then, micro teaching. Micro teaching is a teacher training technique for learning teaching skills. It employs real teaching situation for developing teaching skills and helps to get deeper knowledge regarding the art of teaching. This Stanford technique involves the steps of plan, teach, observe, replan, reteach, and reobserve. Most of the pre-service teacher education programs widely use micro-teaching, and it is proven method to attain gross improvement in the instructional experience. Effective student teaching should be the prime quality of a teacher. This is an innovative method of equipping teachers to be effective. Skills and practices of micro-teaching have been implemented. Then objectives of teaching. An objective describes an intended result of instruction rather than the process of instruction itself. A good objective should be specific, outcome based. It should emphasize on the output rather than the process of instruction, and measurable. Then a good objective should be specific, outcome based. It should emphasize on the output rather than the process of instruction, and measurable. The objectives of teaching and learning must integrate at the end of the instruction. There are two main ways of classifying instructional objectives. One classification is given by Bloom, whereas another classification is given by some other scientists like Briggs. Then Bloom's classification of teaching and instructional objectives. According to this classification, instructional objectives fall under one of the following three categories. First one, cognitive domain. It is related to the development of intellectual capability, thinking, or knowledge, and it is the core of learning domain. The other domains, affective and psychomotor, require at least some cognitive components. It functions at 6 levels, which are as follows. Knowledge, it is basically about recalling information or contents. Then comprehension, it is ability to grasp the meaning of a material. Then application, it converts abstract knowledge into practice. Then analysis, it involves breaking down a communication into its constituent parts in such a manner that relationship of ideas is understood better. Then synthesis, it is basically about combining the constituent parts to make it a whole. It is the acronym of analysis. Then evaluation, it involves judgment made about the value of methods and materials for particular purposes. Anderson, a former student of Bloom, and David Krathwohl, I'm not sure about the pronunciation, arranged the levels as follows. First, remembering, recall or retrieve previously learned information. Then understanding, comprehending the meaning, translation, and interpolation and interpretation of instructions and problems. State a problem in one's own words. Then applying, use a concept in a new situation or unprompted use of an abstraction. Applies what was learned in the classroom into novel situations in the workplace. Then analyzing, it separates a material or concept into component parts so that its organizational structure may be understood. It distinguishes between facts and inferences. Then evaluating, make judgments about the value of ideas or materials. Then creating builds a structure or pattern from diverse elements, put parts together to form a whole with emphasis on creating a new meaning or structure. Then affective domain, man is a rational animal being endowed with human quantities of love, sympathy, tolerance, cooperation, fellow feeling, and similar things. The term affects has a literally meaning or feeling, emotion, and having preference for same object, issue, notion, and etc. Affect is also treated as a response to different social, political, and economic issues in the form of attitudes. An individual has to develop and nurture desirable positive attitudes and interests for his or her better adjustments in the society. This affective domain deals with attitude, motivation, willingness to participate, valuing what is being learned, and ultimately incorporating the value of discipline into a way of life. It asks for better student participation. It includes the following levels. receiving, willingness to listen, responding, willingness to participate, valuing, willingness to be involved, organizing, willingness to be an advocate of an idea, characterization, willingness to change one's behavior or way of life. Then affective education takes a long time to achieve the objectives. For example, any desirable change in the learner's affective behavior cannot be accomplished through a singular learning situation as one per thinking. As per finding, an individual's emotional and rational components of the brain are somewhat independent of each other and operate separately. But there are times when both the components work in harmony with each other, when the individual is faced with a problem or a dilemma and is required to make a decision. The emotional center of the brain functions first, while the rational brain is yet to start functioning. This implies that the education process should provide the individual with adequate knowledge about the situation to enable him or her to use reasoning to mold the emotional behavior in a desirable form. This type of mental functioning, emotional intelligence, which enables the individual to deal intelligently with various social problems that one faces in real life situations. An individual's affective behavior or learning is influenced by both emotional intelligence and cognitive learning. Therefore, the implication for the education process is that cognitive learning and affective learning should be planned to go hand in hand. Then psychomotor domain, it is mainly concerned with the acquisition of technical skills. Following are the 5 different levels of instructional objectives in psychomotor domain. Imitation, it includes demonstration of skill by a skilled person and the learner tries to follow the same. Then manipulation, a learner tries to experiment from various aspects like manipulating machinery, equipment, etc. Precision, accuracy in performing various acts increases with practice. Articulation, achieving a desired level of efficiency and effectiveness through practice. Naturalization, skill is internalized and an individual is able to adapt, modify, or design new techniques, methods, or procedures according to the requirements of a situation. Thus, we can see that learning takes place through 3 different channels: cognitive, psychomotor, and affective. It takes place as one process. The 3 types of learning are not mutually exclusive. The differentiation among them is warranted because of the nature of the behavioral outcomes. It is clear that cognitive as well as affective learning takes place simultaneously and the same content of learning. Then Kane and Brick's classification of teaching and instructional objectives. According to this classification, learning outcomes fall into one of the following categories: intellectual skills. The skills are crucial for dealing with the environment. They include concept learning, rule learning, and problem solving. Then cognitive strategies. This include methods and techniques for one's own learning, remembering, and thinking skills. Then verbal information. It refers to organized bodies of knowledge that an individual acquires. Then motor skills. They are basically about motions carried out when the brain, nerve system, and muscles work together. Then attitude. They refer to an internal state of an individual. Objectives can be put in the following forms also, like cultural context, philosophy of people, national goals, aims of education, objectives of content translated into behaviors. So hierarchy of formulation of objectives, important methods of instruction, methods of teaching. If a child can learn the way we teach, we should teach the way they learn. And I think this is a very important principle. It's not like if a child can't learn the way we teach, we should give up. It's not like that. We need to teach that child the way they learn. So once the instructional objectives are specified, the next step is to select an appropriate instructional method to achieve them. The teacher has a number of methods at its disposal to select from. These methods are as follows. As per the NTN syllabus, we have the following 2 extreme set of methods for institutions of higher learning: teacher-centered method and learner-centered methods. So this can be assumed to be 2 extreme approaches. In between, we can have a third method approach that is called a mixed approach. First, teacher-centered teaching methods. Lecture method. Lecture method is the most conventional and dominating teaching method and is preferred by many teachers. In this method, a teacher attempts to explain facts, principles of relationships to help learner understand. Here, the teacher is an active participant. The students are assumed to be passive listeners. Usually, the student do not converse with the teacher during lecture by the teacher. That way, it is one-way communication. The teacher talks more or less continuously to the class. The class listens, writes and notes facts and the ideas for remembering and to think them over later. It can be made a two-way communication if the teacher allows students to ask few questions to clarify a point, but no discussion is usually held. In basic features, it is formal and narrative in nature. It presents a series of events or facts. It explores problem. Advantages: it is economical and a single teacher can teach a large number of students at a time, which is not possible by using other methods. It saves much time and the syllabus can be very easily covered within a limited time. It simplifies the task of the teacher. It is useful for imparting factual information and drawing attention to its important points. Then during lecture, interruptions and distractions are usually avoided. The limitations: it provides very little opportunity for student activity. The teacher takes special care to make the class interesting. It usually does not provide opportunities to learners to solve problems. It offers limited opportunities for checking learning progress, whether the students are attending and understanding all the teacher is explaining. The interest, abilities, and intelligence of students are not taken care of. It does not allow individual pace of learning. Suggestions to make lecture method more effective: the teacher should avoid the tendency to learn from the lecture note word by word. Teacher should maintain eye contact with the students so as to seek their continuous attention. Then good lesson planning with introductory remarks, main headings, subheadings, feature, figures, and important data, concluding remarks. The student should get opportunity to make notes. Even use of simple language so that students are able to understand. The main point should be repeated in alternative language. Make effective use of audio visual instructions, facilities to improve communication of ideas. Then make appropriate use of instructions and illustrations and examples. There is a need to ensure fair presentation of different views and theories. Provide short breaks during the lecture period for asking through provoking, stimulating, and problem solving questions. Leave time at the end for classification and questions. Then team teaching method. Team teaching is an innovative approach in teaching large groups in which two or more teachers are involved in planning, executing, and evaluating the learning experience of a group of students. Advantages: sharing the best facility by more students, optimum use of multiple teaching techniques and devices, then improvement of teaching quality. Then limitations: finding teachers with special competencies in difficult tasks. More teachers are required for this method, not useful for teaching all subjects, require much time for planning and scheduling. TV or video presentation. Television or video presentation is an important improved presentation of radio or visual presentation, and it can virtually bring the whole world inside the classroom. Screening of video presentation is followed by discussion or task. Advantages: many important personalities and experts are brought to the classroom through video presentation, specifically useful for adult learners. Illustrated lectures and demonstrations can be supplemented by other teaching instructional facilities such as slides, models, specimens, etc. And easily accessible for learners in remote areas, then specifically useful for subjects such as geography, astronomy, etc. Limitations: less possible for two-way communication. There can be difficulty in adjusting to complicated schedule to telecast period. Then mixed group teaching methods. Most of the methods of instructional delivery for the learning of smaller groups numbering between 3 and 12 trainees lean towards trainee-centered approach. Some of these methods are group discussion, seminar, project work, tutorials, role playing, etc. These are briefly discussed below. Group discussion or GD. This may be counted under small or large group teaching method. It is one of the oldest methods used by Greek scholars and scholars from Nalanda University. A discussion method of teaching is a democratic method used to develop better understanding among students for supplementing a lecture in connection with an observation, visit, or case presentation, and for sharing information. In this method of considering various facts about a topic under consideration, understanding of these facts by studying their relationships and drawing out conclusions of the facts and their relationships are studied. It stimulates students' thinking process to analyze and integrate facts and help in developing their abilities in presentation of their ideas and facts clearly and fluently. Then forms of discussion. This type of discussion can be classroom discussion, formal group discussion, discussion in terms of symposium, panel, seminar, and conference. Then classroom discussion. It is a informal method like of discussion in the class. If the class is not too large, sometimes the teacher may select a particular topic with the whole class participating as one group. In this situation, the teacher acts as a leader. They present the topic, guides, and directs the discussion. At times, a student may take the role of a leader. The leader usually notes down the main points on the backboard or may ask one of the students to do this. He or she also assists the group in sum it up. Then formal group discussions. Formal group discussion is comprised of small group discussion followed by large group discussion. It is desirable when the number of students is more or when it is desirable to discuss several aspects of a topic. To start with the discussion, the teacher may act as a chairman. He or she introduces the topic of discussion and explains objectives of discussion. He or she helps students get organized into 3 or 5 small groups. Each group selects a leader and a recorder. Each subgroup discusses the topic. The leader initiates, coordinates, and controls the group discussion. The recorder notes down the discussion points. The teacher acts as a facilitator and resource person. She is available to assist groups as required. At the end of allotted time, not more than 30 minutes, all the group reassemble as large group. The leader or the recorder of each small group presents the report, and the teacher then leads the general discussion, clarifies points, and finally sums up. Symposium seminars are also forms of group discussions, but they have discussed in second unit as many questions have been asked from them in this exam. So we'll be learning about that topic later. So group discussion can be of following types as well. Planned one. There is certainty about the conclusions and objectives. The discussion is guided by the trainer in an appropriate sequence. Then partly planned. Here the concluding and opening statements are not, but discussions in between is not directed or very loosely guided. Then unplanned. The topic presented for discussion is without any opening statement, and the discussion that follows is entirely spontaneous without any guidance of the trainer. Advantages: stimulating thinking process. It helps in the development of critical thinking. It is pooling of knowledge, ideas, and feeling of several persons' analysis and integration of facts, ideas, and concepts. Then rationalization of facts, and it this promotes intelligent learning. Then learning together, sharing responsibilities, and it is developing team spirit and teaching. Learning process, discovering talented students, good for developing oral and non-verbal communication. Limitations: it requires more time, efforts, and resources of both teachers and students. It may involve unnecessary arguments. Discussions may go off the track. It may create emotional stress and unpleasant feelings in some students, and that is something which I have personally experienced while discussing some topics. But that's a bit of personal information, but I just felt like sharing. So possibility of domination of session by a few students. Yeah, that's right. It is not suitable for all the topics. The next topic we will be learning with the help of next video. Thank you.